With the Thursday premiere coming up, TNA has reason for optimism that they'll reach a larger audience, because the Ultimate Fighter debuted the week before TNA moved to Thursdays. So the premiere of the Ultimate Fighter, which will serve as TNA's lead-in for the next dozen weeks, scored a strong 2.0 rating. Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz are the coaches and the centerpiece of the show, along with the students and the fights. So people are into the Shamrock Ortiz thing. Shock of all shocks.
That does not surprise me. Historical feud and all.
So TNA ended up drawing a 1.1 rating for its Thursday night debut on April 13th. The show drew an average audience of 1.3 million viewers over the 1 hour broadcast, making it the most watched TNA telecast to date. The show retained or matched 85% of the UFC lead-in in the 10 to 11 time slot for the Ultimate Fighter 3 episode, which drew a 1.3 rating overall. In the old time slot, where there is still a replay, the Saturday night replay of Impact 2 nights later drew a 0.6 rating, creating a combined ratings for both telecasts of 1.7. The good news for TNA is that it drew so well in Spike's key target demographic, men 18 to 49.
No babes!
In fact, the 1.4 rating in that demo made it the top rated program from 11 to 12 that night in that demo among all basic cable programs, beating the runner-up programming on FX by 30%. It also drew a strong 1.7 rating among men 25 to 34 and a 1.5 rating among men 18 to 34. Sources say TNA's parent company Panda Energy is thrilled with TNA right now and sees it as a potential cash cow for in a few years.
Okay. Yeah.
That goes great. That's fine. Everything's going great. Making the losses incurred so far during the investment period seem insignificant. Sources also say TNA is holding back on going after big name signings until they get into prime time. Goldberg was pursued recently, but not chased.
Let's talk more about Goldberg. Goldberg is always talking. This man loves TNA. He's going to be there any day now.
Because you do get the sense, the way they set up the build for the Lethal Lockdown, where Sting consciously waits a little while until the second set of TV tapings to announce who his team is. You do get the sense they were holding out hope that they'd get Goldberg.
Which is fair.
It's like, of all the people, for some reason, I can't imagine Goldberg in like the Impact Zone.
He makes very little sense optically. Like, it doesn't vibe right.
Yeah, the idea of him on the soundstage, for some reason, like, no.
Yeah. Perhaps it's because he feels like too big of a star.
That probably is it, and he probably wants lots of money. Bill Goldberg did an interview at WrestlingMag.com where he said, "When I think of WWE, I want to throw up. Needless to say, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I was appalled at the way WWE chose to alter my character." This was in response to a question about appearance number 1 where he put on the Goldust wig. Whether it was an ego thing or not on their part, it was not a good business decision to say the least. Regarding TNA, all he would say is never say never. He said TNA has approached him on many different levels, but said he doesn't watch WWE or TNA TV, though there is a note apparently he's watched some TNA of late.
He loved Lance Hoyt versus Kenny King.
He was like, that's the match that's getting me here. I want to do a dream match against Lance Hoyt.
I want to do a dream match against Kenny King.
Then he saw the flagging Hoytomaniacs and he was like, no, I can't go.
Yeah, he thought that was going to be. It was going to be like the big Goldberg Hoytomania clash, but it was not to be.
The dream Goldborg. Hoyt. That's his actually TNA name because WWE legally trademarked his name actually. And then Hoyt. So you get the Goldberg Hoyt.
Hoyt.
This does feel like the closest they came to trying to sign Goldberg, I guess. Like they did seem to really want him. I wonder if they did hold the primetime spot, would they have been more willing to like go more aggressively after him? Because by the time they do get that primetime spot, they have Kurt. So like Kurt's like the top star to fill that kind of the aggressive pursuit of a second top star after Sting. So I wonder if they did actually have that 9 p.m. hour here, would they have signed Goldberg, or at least tried to be more aggressive in signing Goldberg?
It probably all comes down to like cost versus value and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I feel like Goldberg would have been like asking for insane money.
Like, yeah, Goldberg is nearly certainly a 7-figure deal at this point, right? Which I don't think Sting or Kurt are. Those are both 6-figure deals.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Kurt was like a guy who was like already kind of out when he left and was getting down cycled and was injured up and had all that stuff going on. So it was probably more of a value pick than a Goldberg.
Yeah, it's not like Kurt had a bidding war element to him.
No.
The move to Thursdays did really, really well. Best rating in the history of the show, so you can't really complain. And I thought really good episode on the whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think they kind of They kind of hit it out of the park a little bit. They're really good at their first impressions. I've always said that about them.
Yeah, it was my impression as I watched that show. It's like, once again, you know, they especially like the first impression. Like, you get the Ultimate Fighter, which is like a UFC audience, and then the first thing you see on Impact when it comes over from the Ultimate Fighter is Samoa Joe kicking Christopher Daniels' bloody head into a guardrail. Like, the decision to actually start that episode in progress, so you get straight into the meat of the action between Joe and Daniels, is that's really, really smart in terms of trying to retain the UFC audience.
Yeah, it's a perfect kind of match for that. For the shoot fans, they should have just gone full UWF.
Daniels doing a UWF match? You really want that?
Yeah, maybe.
Joe could do it. Daniels?
I've probably seen worse.
Spike TV executives were backstage at Lockdown on Sunday. One wrestling executive tells PW Torch that a network executive said Spike was pleased with TNA's ratings and the company's overall vision. As of press time, the front page of Spike TV's website contains a full-size TNA banner logo next to the UFC banner logo. UFC gets renewed for another 3 years here with Spike as well this month, so UFC are with Spike for the relative long haul until they blow up as a humongous company that's like one of the biggest entertainment properties in the world, which is not quite where they are here.
It's not quite where TNA ends up either.
No, not really.
Not comparatively.
They do end up on pretty different trajectories in the end, unfortunately. One former TV producer tells PW Torch that networks generally bury a program on their website or on company press releases if they are unhappy with it, but rather Spike is showing unprecedented confidence in TNA considering the brand is not strong yet, the source said. Spike is only selling limited national advertisements during the impact time slots. Spike is mainly running TNA merchandise and product ads, while local cable companies are filling the remaining ad time with local sponsors such as car dealerships. Spike is trying to build name brand recognition with the TNA property to attract potential advertisers.
Easy.